Hello Virgo, my name's Uma. This is your last horoscope for the year 2022. Can you believe it? I kind of can't. Hey Virgo, welcome back. As I said, this is the last horoscope for the year 2022. It's the new moon lunation in Capricorn happening on Friday the 23rd of December if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me, so a couple of days before the holidays. And it has a lovely, earthy, grounded feeling to it, which I think you'll come to appreciate. Capricorn is an earth sign, as you are. Capricorn is a cardinal earth, whereas Virgo is mutable. So as much as we remember that Virgo is like clay and Virgo is malleable and definitely grounded, kind of shiftable, Capricorn is much more affecting. They move forward. They start things off. Think about cardinal and mutable simply as the beginning of a season, the end of a season. That might be an interesting way to think about it as well. This lunation, this new moon, this fresh start in a lot of ways, that's actually a really great way to think about it, a nice fresh start to cap off this year and to start the next one is a really great feeling. There's something kind of protective about this lunation that I quite like. It's playing out in your fifth house, which is where we express ourselves. It's where we create. It's where we make art, make sex, make love, all of those beautiful pleasure-induced experiences happen in the fifth. It's also where we think about kids, maybe our relationship to kids, maybe our hopes to have them. But the fifth is definitely about the expression of the individual. I always like to think of a toddler when I think of the fifth house and that moment when they look in the mirror and they're like, that's me. I thought that I was a part of this whole thing. I thought that my mother was just simply an extension of me. And when I'd cry, this part of me would come and comfort me. But now I realize that there's separation. And I like it. That's kind of fifth house in that joyful relationship that we can experience and share with ourselves, and obviously with others. When it comes to creativity, collaboration, fun, joyful sex relationships and stuff like that too. Expression of oneself and the body and the feeling, That's kind of fifth house. Interesting that it's Capricorn for you, Virgo. I mean, it's kind of not. It's sort of quite. It works for you, because Capricorn has difficulty with themselves. That actually, it's an interesting relationship. They feel that they're better by themselves, but they have kind of maybe like a self-effacing sort of relationship with that self. It's like, don't worry about me, I'm fine, I'll do it by myself, because I can't ask for help, because I'm having difficulty interacting, because of my stridency and my sort of know-it-all. I know that this is how it's done, this is how we do it, this is how we organize this. There is a sort of yearning to be with the other, but a sort of separation. That's interesting, Virgo. Unpack that for a moment in terms of your creativity. Do you like to work with people, or do you like to work alone? How do you express yourself? Does it have a lot to do with other people? And how is your relationship with even that concept of self-expression? You might find that you prefer to be in groups, you prefer to be working as part of a team because there's less of a focus on your individual self-expression. You might not consider yourself a great lover in terms of seeking out your pleasure. It might be sort of more about your partner's pleasure. These are just notions that are coming through my head. And obviously your whole chart will sort of make up a finer picture of this. But these are things just to consider. The fifth house is about you. It is about your individual expression. If we think about it in opposite terms of the zodiac, opposite the fifth is the 11th, which opposite of that is about, a collective experience, is about humanity, friendships, coming together. So that's not to say that either is better. They're both kind of essential. So maybe, at this lunation, things that I've spoken about might be triggering little ideas in your mind of like, oh yeah, when was the last time I just did that just for me? Or when was I proud of myself? That might be interesting things for you to think about at this lunation, and maybe things for you to activate. It might be really great for you to write yourself a list of all the things that you've achieved this year, all the creative pursuits that you've engaged in. I don't want to talk about it successfully or not, because I think the act of engaging in it in the first place is a success. We can get so wrapped up in the responsibilities of life in different ways. That 11th house is calling on all of us right now, What are we going to do for the group? What are we going to do for everyone, for human beings, for my family, for my neighborhood? There's a lot of fear at the moment, isn't there, in terms of that, which is maybe exacerbating that divide. I think at this lunation, Virgo, I really want you to focus in on, as difficult as it might be, I want you to focus in on yourself and how you are expressing yourself. And how is that received by yourself? Does that make sense? The art for art's sake is like the perfect thing. Just to make something for no reason is the best. I'm rapidly realizing, and I can probably identify with how tricky that might be, because I have a Capricorn sun. And so to say, oh, it's for nothing, it's just for no reason, is like, yeah, but what's the goal? How do we turn this into something to toil away at and hide behind? That's very Capricorn. So maybe in that way, have a think about it, Virgo. As much as that can give you the shits about other Capricorns, or as you can recognize it in them, sort of like, oh, they're just, drowned in work. They hide behind their work. They're so rigid that they don't feel that they're worth anything, because if they're not working, then they're nobody. And then relate that to your own version of self-expression, and have you come into a nice relationship with that? Or is it something that you could probably be a bit sweeter to yourself about? The tarot for this lunation, so 1 degree of Capricorn, it's the 2 of Pentacles, which is like a visual representation, perhaps of Jupiter energy in Capricorn. And I'll talk further to that. But there is there's like a deluge of energy, and then like can I do that and do this and do that and do this? This figure's trying to find some sort of balance in an environment that feels pretty imbalanced, but they're doing all right. They've got that juggling act happening there. Maybe it's got something to do with juggling the responsibilities of this life, or the many different facets, different parts of this life that are calling on you right now. You've got to be, a good sibling. You've got to be a good kid. You've got to be a good partner. You've got to be a good employee. You've got to be, a good tenant. All of these different things can sort of build up and up and up and up. And it can feel, like turbulence. Can feel sort of, there's almost no room to express. And so at this lunation, this is your invitation to make the time. If you want to talk magic talk, a new moon is a time to ask for it, ask for the next, if it's maybe wave of inspiration, or maybe it's, the next love affair, if that's sort of something that you're thinking about. I've just got no time to engage in pleasure. That might this new moon is asking you to reserve just a little bit of time to bring that in. And in that, assess your relationship with pleasure and with creativity. Speaking of Jupiter, we have a square with this lunation. So the sun and the moon are at 1 degree in Capricorn. Jupiter is actually at 0 degrees in Aries. So that's 2 cardinal energies. That's nearly exact. That's a big square, a big pressure point. Now, Jupiter is, very optimistic, very encouraging. And they've just entered your 8th house, which is where we collaborate. It's also where we grieve. It's the house that has a lot to do, I guess, which is interesting, actually. Let's think about this. 5th and the 8th, a square. It feels like there's a okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb. It feels like there's a big problem at the moment with your engagements with other folks, other obligations. This could be folks that you're in business with. This could be family members. This could be, landlords as well. Like, think about the different ways that you're sort of contracted, spiritually or otherwise, to other people. And this is squaring off with your individual sense of expression, your individual moment. I would reckon that Capricorn's pulling rank at this one. You've got a responsibility to yourself at this lunation. I'm sure you've got many, many, many different responsibilities to many, many different people, Virgo, and that's all right. You're very good at that, and that's what you kind of thrive on. You want to bring people together. You want to help them out. To be of service is so important to a Virgo. But this lunation, just as I've sort of looking at it now, it's telling me to let Capricorn pull rank, let your commitment to your individual moment. And it doesn't have to be like, I'm taking the next however many months off for myself. I mean, it could be, but it doesn't have to be. It's about actually sitting with the astrology, sitting with the lunation, using this as a little moment of private ritual to yourself, and write yourself. I mean, even maybe write yourself like a wish list or like a beautiful love letter to yourself. There's something about your expression, Virgo, that needs a bit of emphasis. We've got Venus and Mercury in there too, and Pluto, remember, in Capricorn. So there's a whole suite of energies in Capricorn right now. And I would say that there is something to do with self-care. Yeah. All of that responsibility, all of that stuff, and some of the 8th house stuff can be really confronting. It can really approach things like grief and fear and loss as well, So I don't want, it depends on your situation. So I don't want to tell them all to stick it. But I think if this is what you're experiencing, if it is quite difficult for you at the moment with the ways that your life and your path is intermingling with other people's, all the different ways that we are bound to other souls, is another good way to think about the 8th house. This lunation is definitely calling upon you, excuse me, to reserve a little bit of time for yourself and your self-expression. Maybe this is expressing your point of view or your perspective, your side of this scenario. But the key word, Virgo, is your. All right? Yeah. I hope that made sense. No more time for intuitive tarot. I'm sorry, Virgo. I keep on ragging on, but I reckon this astrology is really nice. And I think that this is going to be not like a reset moment, but definitely I think particularly around this holiday season when I can imagine there'd be a lot of 8th house stuff. There'd be a lot of collaboration, intermingling, connection, obligation-y things going on, that it might be actually even more of a double down to be like, this is my individual expression at the moment. This is what I'm creating. This is how I'm finding pleasure at this time as well. That might be another message of support for you. I didn't think about that, but yeah, it's a tricky time. There's a lot of obligations that we carry out at this time with folks that we love, and some of them we don't really know very well, or they don't really know us. And so at this lunation, I really want you to get to know, or come to remember who you are. You know, you're really great, Virgo. And you're not the only one that does it, that needs to do it, that needs to... It's part of being, it's part of getting along, isn't it? You know, these rituals around this time of year, there's pleasure to be found in them, that's for sure. But there's pleasure to be found in who you are as well. All right, that's the reading, Virgo. Let me know what you'd like to see next year. I'm loving the horoscopes, absolutely. I want to extend this work because it's feeling so important to me right now, and I feel like I'm being of good help, and I feel that this is a lovely exercise in connecting us and coming to understand what we have in common with other folks. I think as we move on and evolve, astrology will become more of that. It will become, this is how we interrelate. I can see this in you, and this is how mine can be transposed onto yours, and we can see how we're relating to one another and how much we have in common. Rather than maybe the prescriptive, this is what divides us and you're a whatever. Well, that's fun to do sometimes, let's face it, especially if you're getting over something. I've just gone off on a tangent. Sorry, Virgo, I've got to go. I love you, and get your birth chart read by me, umaruby.com. Write me a message in the comments about what you'd like to see next year. What I'm willing to extrapolate on what it is that I know, and I love to share it with you. So let's keep this thing chugging. I'll see you next year. Bye.